This twisting movement, called the needle arm thread through with reach, uses some interesting fixed points to create a very spinal and arm stretch that can be very safe and perfectly normal. The knees on the ground set our initial fixed point. The legs are attached to the pelvis through the hip and its muscles. So any pull to the side, carried through the rotation from the upper body, will be prevented from going any further by the pelvis and legs, meaning that the rotation, and therefore the stretch, will occur mainly in the spine and its attached fascias. With this set, the lower arm is moved across the body and placed on the ground. Because we're bent at the waist, we've now dropped all of our trunk weight onto this shoulder. This creates another fixed point that will allow the upper arm to rotate over top the lower and further increase the stretch. What we've done here is created a bit of a corkscrew mechanism, where the twisting up top is carried through that screwy spine to the bottom, with the bottom being the small movement of the sacrum. Understand, there's quite a bit of leverage and therefore power generated here, so consult a medical professional before doing this kind of an exercise. So this really is an arm-driven motion. By placing the lower arm down on the ground, we get a lateral pull on the scapula, which lengthens the rhomboids and trapezius, which in turn pulls on the thoracic spine. The upper arm, rotating back, pulls through the serratus anterior and pec muscles to the sternum. And as a whole, the pull of these arms will create rotation of the spine and rib cage, what we call together the thorax. Now, if you really wanted to, you could spend hours identifying and then arguing about which specific trunk tissues are being more and less stretched in this position. The real answer is that most of them are stretched to some extent. In the case of even the smallest spinal muscles and ligaments, once we've added side bending and rotation, the attachment points, the spinal processes, will be further apart, stretched. For the bigger muscles, certainly we get more stretch on one side, but we're going to be doing this both sides anyways, so you will eventually get both. Even the abdominal muscles are lengthened in this maneuver because of how the front of the thorax rotates relative to the pelvis. Looking at this position, it may seem a bit unnatural. We may question what's the use of it. But just flip gravity around, and you can see we take on a very similar position when we're reaching back for something, especially if we're sitting in a chair at the time. This is also seen in the type of twist that happens, arm versus leg, upper girdle versus pelvis, that we do all the time when we're walking with a full stride. So if you want to, get out there, get twisty.